My name is Natalie Tomlinson and I'm one of the directors of the Sunday Essiett Company. The Sunday Essiett Company was formed on the 22nd of February 2011, and it was as a result of a young person named Sunday Essiett who lost his life. When Sunday was murdered on the 19th of February 2008, he was an orphan, so there was a lot of things that we weren't able to do for him as a family would have been able to do. So we eventually done a fundraiser to help his sister Blessing get a headstone for him. So on working on the fundraiser, we had such a lot of young people and adults that came together and contributed to a £10 ticket. And we were able to raise enough money to pay for the headstone. And as a result of that, and seeing how everybody came together and seeing the need that was there for the young people on the streets, we decided that we couldn't leave it there. We couldn't just do a fundraiser and bring all these young people together and that be the end of it. And so 3 days later, the Sunday Essiett Company was formed. Many of the young people that I've worked with are very keen to get out of gangs. But even though they may be keen, some of them are quite fearful of the consequences of leaving a gang, and because it isn't very easy a lot of the time. So when a young person has expressed that they really are serious about leaving, but they're concerned because of maybe the area that they live and things like that, or they might have their family that they live with and they're concerned, I've been able to speak with people to help them even be moved out. So for example, there's a man that I work with quite closely called Jonathan Toy. He's the head of community safety and enforcement for Southwark Council, and he can get them placed very, very easily. So he really does play quite a crucial part. If there's a young person that's concerned, I get them in touch with him. I think one of the fears for a lot of young people that are wanting to leave a gang is the repercussions, the fear of other members coming after them. Also, I think one of the big fears for young people wanting to leave gangs is the fact that there is a lot of information that they are aware of about other members, and I think that sometimes those members those still current members may become concerned that they will share that information. I think that also many of them are concerned because with a lot of the young people in gangs, you find that they really want to escalate up. They want to create a name for themselves. They want to be known, and therefore they will do some of the most craziest things to get themselves a good name, a good reputation, more stripes, if you may. It's not easy to say why a young person necessarily would join a gang, because there are so many different reasons, and it's very easy to look at the stereotypical type of young people to say that maybe they've come from a broken home or various things, and that's not always the case. That really isn't. And sometimes in some circumstances, I don't know them all, but in some circumstances you have some young people that have come from a broken home. From some young people you have that they may be in a very loving environment, but maybe the family doesn't have as much time for them. Maybe they could have been bullied in school or something, or maybe sometimes the attraction isn't necessarily that they really view it as a gang as such, but it's more like a family to them. So sometimes you will have a young, it could seem quite innocent sometimes at the beginning, so you could have somebody that may draw that person close to them, might buy them gifts, look out for them. Maybe they don't have their father in their life, or maybe they don't have a big brother, or maybe they just feel they're quite a vulnerable young person for whatever the reason, and that person could really draw on that vulnerability, and before you know it, they're now asking that young person, oh, I'm having a bit of problem with these people, can you take care of this? And very often that young person, because they feel that there's this sense of loyalty, this person has been a good person to me, they've been buying me things and looking after me, I can't really tell that person no. So I've got to do this. They've been looking after me, so I've got to. And that's a lot of the way that a lot of these older members really entice the young people. And it seems so innocent, but then, you know, so a lot of them, when they're receiving gifts, they're not realising that everything has a price, and that at some point the person giving these gifts is going to want something in return. And very often they don't like to get their own hands dirty. So, and then you will have, maybe sometimes you'll have the young girls who want to fit in. Maybe there's a crowd at school or outside of school that they want to get to know. But we also have to remember that with many young people as well, it's not that they necessarily want to join a gang. Some are literally born into gangs because their family members are very well known in gangs and what have you. So it's quite hard. And then you also have some young people who, it's not that they want to join a gang by choice, but it's that the area they may live. For example, if a young person is living on a particular estate that is quite notorious for gangs and they're on their own, they could be singled out. So it's easier and safer for them, in their way of thinking, to just join the gang and stay with them for their own safety. It's not they particularly want to, but if there's a lot of young people on your estate that's in a gang and it's just you on your own, very often it's likely to be that you're going to be a target for them. So sometimes it's not necessarily by choice that they join these gangs. I don't think that all of the young people that have been losing their lives to gun and knife crime have necessarily been involved in gangs or even associated with gangs. I think some certainly have, but I feel that some young people have had no involvement with any gangs, but they have somehow happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a young man that I used to work with, and he simply went to a funeral just to pay his respects to his friend, and he was shot dead in the funeral. Now, he had nothing to do with gangs, but nonetheless he happened to be somewhere where there was a feud going on, and he lost his life as a result of it. So pride plays a very, very, very big part in a lot of what we're seeing happening on our streets today with gun and knife crime. You have many young people that don't want to back down. A young person that I spoke to once before who took a life said that he really wished he hadn't, and he didn't want to, but he didn't want to back down because he didn't want to look silly in front of everybody else. And I had to really, really speak to him about that. And I said, you know, why is other people's opinion of you so important? You know, and another young person once, he described to me, and I'd never ever pictured it this way, I asked him, you know, what's your view of a gang? Why do people get involved in gangs? This person was involved in a gang. And he said to me, nobody really understands. He said, being in a gang is like playing football and being scouted. He said, you've got to always be on your best performance because someone's scouting, they're watching, they're looking around to bring on new recruits, and they want the best, and you have to be basically on your A game. I'd never ever heard it described in that way before, but I could actually understand when he explained it. But a lot of young people, they don't want to be seen, they've got this thing about respect. Although they show a great lack of it, they have such this of a thing about respect, and they don't want to back down, they don't want to seem soft, or as many of them say, you know, a dickhead or whatever. They don't want to come across as anything but hard and macho. One of the things that I'd like to see done, and what the Sunday Essiett company is working towards, is having young people who have actually taken the life of somebody and are serving time in prison, to come into schools and to come into certain things, and to be letting young people know where they would be heading if they were to take the same route. I think that would be quite a very significant impact on young people. I think that it's important that they understand what I spend a lot of time with young people, is explaining to them that the choices they make, it doesn't only affect themselves, it affects their families. Because when a life is taken, two mothers end up grieving, because two mothers lose their children. One loses them, you know, and will never see them again. One can go to a prison to visit theirs, but they've still lost a child. So you have two mothers that end up losing. And I think that for a young person, for an ex-gang member to come out into a school or a college or anywhere or at an event and share that they've taken a life or that they were involved in a gang, and and that it's not good to do that and what have you. I think that's very, very strong. But I think a young person coming out with the police handcuffed to them and saying to the young people, when you leave here, you're going to your homes. When I leave here, I'm going back to my cell, and that's where I'm going to be for the next however many years. I think that has an even stronger impact, and that's something that I'd like to see being done more. And I even have a young man who has taken a life of somebody, and he has said he's prepared to do that. So that's something that we're trying to work towards and everything. But I really do feel that that would be a very, very, very significant situation.